What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another Last Cloudia video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the not the importance of AI, but how to understand the AI, how it works, and how you can make it work in your favor. Now, the reason I decided to make this video was because in part 2 of the current event that we have going on, there's going to be a time trial, but this time around is going to be auto time trial, meaning it's just going to be pure auto. We're not going to have any control aside from just like building our units and giving them skills and gear and stuff like that. That means we won't be able to use Glukiel and Gwar to do the whole, Glukier Gwar cheese. So I feel like this time trial, although it is kind of it's brand new. Like the whole idea is totally new. I actually like it because now it requires more skill. I'd say more skill, but it requires more understanding of the game and how the AI works, as opposed to if it was just a regular time trial where we could use arcs and arc skills and our own units and control them. And I feel like with this time trial, there's always complaints with a time trial, whether it's too hard, it's not clear, new player friendly, they can clear it. So I feel like making this video hopefully will help people have a better understanding of the AI and how they can be more prepared, I guess you could say, with the upcoming time trial. I don't feel like I'm necessarily shooting myself in the foot because I'm not giving away strats. I'm simply just trying to explain to you that don't know how the AI works, how it works, and how you can manipulate it. So we're going to be covering there's physical DPS AI, there's magic AI, there's support slash healing AI. I think that's really about it. There are factors that go into play with the AI. Like before they do a certain move, they will, they'll have a bunch of boxes that will, if they check off, then they'll perform different things. So with that being said, the whole point of this video is to help out people get a better understanding of the AI, and hopefully they can do better in the auto time trial that's coming up soon. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. Okay, so moving on to physical DPS AI, there are things that the AI factors in before doing any kind of action. Those things are the STR stat. Do they have more STR versus having more int? As well as the readily available stocks that they have and the total stocks that they have on the skills. Now, normally when it comes to the STR stat, we say don't build for the STR stat because it won't help you do damage, and that's true. But when it comes to the AI, the STR stat is a huge influence on whether or not a unit is more likely to use their skills. If they have more STR, they're more likely to. If they have more int than STR, then they're less likely to use their skills. They may use it, but they may not have a pattern to using those skills. And I mentioned pattern because every unit has their certain pattern that they use. S1, S2, and then S3. But when they use their S1 and S2 and S3 is determined again by the readily available stocks that they have and the total stocks that they have on their skills. So it's better for me to show you than to just explain to you. So let me go ahead and move into a fight and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so let me show you what I got going on. I'm going to show examples of a unit having more strength, and then an example of a unit have more intelligence, and then how having more of each influences whether they use their skills or not. So as for the gear, since I'm going to leave it on auto, I just gave her skill charge time gear so that she has them more available. So with the spear, the 2 accessories, she now has 25%. The militia of the departed gives 50%, and then auto haste gives 25%. So in total, she has 100% SET speed. This means that now her skills are halved. Her S1's 13, now it's 6 to 7. It fluctuates. Her S2's 24, now it's 12. Her S3's 32, now it's 16. Okay, so going into the fight, I'm going to go ahead and cast Honey Elixir on her. I'm going to let the AI do its thing. And I want you to pay attention to the pattern that she has going on when using her skills. Okay, so here we are in the fight. She has 4,000 strength and 1,634 intelligence. She's mid-cast of Honey Elixir. I'm going to let it play out, and I want you to pay attention to the pattern that she does when using her skills. Okay, so she casts Honey Elixir. S1, S1. So you see the pattern that she's going into now. S1, S2, and then S3. But in order for her to use her S1, she has to, not has to have, but you see that she generally has 2 or 3 S1s. And then in order for her to use her S2, she generally has 2 S1s and then 1 S2 available. And then with her S3, if she has 1 available, she'll use it. I know it sounds very confusing, so that's why I'm trying to show the pattern that she has going on. See? So you can see the pattern. S1, S2, and then S3. But you can also see the conditions that have to be met in order to use those skills. Pretty cool. So let's go ahead and move on to the example of when she has more intelligence versus having more strength. Okay, so here we are with her having more intelligence than strength. She's got 3,500 intelligence and then 2,000 strength. So I'm already casted Honey Elixir on her, and I'll let it play out. And you can see the difference in her having more intelligence versus having more strength. So you can see she's just sitting on her stocks. There is no pattern compared to when she had more strength. She's using her skills, yes, but not consistently, and there's no pattern. So hopefully this shows the difference between having more strength and then having more intelligence. Okay, so there's another thing I want to show, and that's Battle Start SET, and then how you can manipulate that into making a unit use a certain skill at the very start of the fight. Now, for this example, I'm going to be using Phone Booth because I feel like this gives a good example of having to work around skill stocks in order to use a certain skill, because with this it gives 30 at the start, and then if you give them skill charges, depending on which skill charge you give them, will give more charges to that said skill, and that can be a big factor on whether or not they use a certain skill or not. So for this one, we can make her use her S3 instantly by giving her skill charge 3 and then Phone Booth, and then paired with enough STR. So she should use her S3 going into the fight. Okay, so she used her S3. Now let's see if we can make the same thing happen with her S2. Okay, so I gave her skill charge 2, and she should use her S2. Okay, I gave her skill charge 1. As you can see, she uses her S1 and then goes back into the pattern of using S1, S2, and then S3. Okay, now I want to show an example where the total stocks and when having a certain amount of stocks available at the start determines what skill a unit uses. So for instance, for this example, we're going to use Sage Emperor Zekus. I want him to use his S3 at the very start of the fight. I gave him phone booth and I gave him skill charge 3, right? So in theory, he should use his S3 at the start of the fight. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so he didn't use his S3. Now he uses S3. Okay, so what that tells me is we have to adjust the total skill stocks that he has. Okay, so he uses S2 at the start. How can we fix that? Let's see what happens when we give him skill stock 2. Or stock skill 2. Okay, now he does his S3 instantly. So this is a good example of increasing a unit's skill stock can help manipulate the AI into them using a certain skill at the very start of the fight. Okay, so that was the example with Sage Zekus and how skill stocks matter. Now, this isn't the same for every unit, right? Every unit is different because they have different total max stocks, and then they have different SCT, which determines how many stocks they're going to get at the start of the fight if you give them, phone booth and skill charge 1, 2, or 3, or if you use Abandoned City of the Sea arc. So there's a lot to play around with. I'm not going to go through every unit because that would be, there's no reason to. You kind of just have to play around with it and for you to understand, which is better because you'll get more understanding of how the AI will work with that certain unit. But I felt like using Shift Lilibet was a very good example of how a unit has a pattern and goes into using their skills depending on the skill stocks that they have. Now, with Shift Lilibet, I didn't have to adjust her stocks at all because of the way that her total stocks were set up already and how many skill stocks she gets at the start of the fight kind of fell into her pattern already. If you notice with her S2 had enough charges that she used it because it fell in line with her using her skills in that order. She just had skill charge into that skill. And the same thing with her S3. We started with an S3 and then S2 and then 2 S1s. So that already was in line with the pattern that she uses her skills. So she used her S3 immediately, if that makes sense. So hopefully this showed how you can manipulate the AI and gave you a better understanding of how the physical DPS AI works. So let's go ahead and move into magic. Okay, so when it comes to magic, there are things that influence the AI on their decision, and that being, again, the int versus strength stat. That makes a difference, much like how the physical DPS needs more strength than int. In this case, magic users or casters need more intelligence than strength. Another thing that comes into play is, do they have the elemental advantage of the spell that they're using against the enemy? So if an enemy is weak to light and Roland has, Shining Zoc, he has the elemental advantage. So he's more likely to use Shining Zoc on that enemy compared to an enemy that is neutral to light or is resistant to light. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like in the combat. Okay, so let me show you what it looks like when a unit has the elemental advantage and also has more intelligence than STR. You'll notice that they will want to cast a lot more often compared to when having more strength. But let me go ahead and show you what it looks like when they have the elemental advantage and that they have more intelligence than strength. Okay, so here we are in the fight. He's got 3,000 intelligence and then 1,500 strength. He's already trying to cast, but I'm going to cancel the casting and I'm going to show you just how often he wants to cast because he has the elemental advantage. So we're going to cancel it. So the boss is weak to light. The others are neutral to light, but he has the elemental advantage. So I'm going to let it play out and you'll see that he wants to cast. Okay, cancel. 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 Oh, sorry. See, he wants to cast really often. Okay, so you get the idea. He's got the elemental advantage and he has more intelligence than strength. So let me show what it looks like when he has the elemental advantage but has more strength than intelligence. Okay, so here we have him with 4,000 strength versus 1,500 in int. And we'll see how often he wants to cast when he has more strength than intelligence. Even though he has the elemental advantage, we'll see how it plays out. So you can see he's definitely not wanting to cast as often. Even though he has the elemental advantage, not having enough int makes him not want to cast. So you see now the frequency of when he had more int versus when now that he has more STR. So magic is pretty simple when it comes to the AI. Just have the elemental advantage and then have more intelligence than strength. Okay, so when it comes to support magic and then healing magic, there really isn't much to it. Supports, like if they just have a bunch of like debuffs and buffs for your team, they'll just cast them. There's no condition that they have to meet in order for them to cast it. As for the healing, the only condition there really is an ally has to be low on health in order for them to heal. They won't heal at like, 75, 50%, but when they start getting close to 30%, then they'll heal. So that's really the only condition that healers have. I tried to make a magic caster and a support unit, but I found that making a unit be a support and a healer is better than trying to make a magic caster into a support unit as well. That's the only thing I can note, but let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about when it comes to the low HP healing. Okay, so here we are. Again, see, she kind of just casts them. There's no real condition she's got to meet. As for the healing, she has to be low on health. I took off her auto heal so that she wouldn't heal with auto heal. But this is pretty much it. Like I said, there's not much to their AI. They just cast it. The healing, they just have to be low on HP. That's about it. Okay, one thing I did want to mention is if you give your magic caster, or if you give your support unit like Theria Elder King Mask, then this can help prevent them from using their skills. Why would you want them to not use their skills? Like for instance, Theria. I want her to only focus on using Glass Record because it heals and it also provides SCT. But if she has access to her skills, then she'll use Healing Wind, which yes, it'll heal, but I want her to just cast Glass Record. And if she's casting Glass Record and has access to her skills, then she'll switch between using Glass Record and using Healing Wind. So I just want her to focus on using Glass Record. So you can use that, or you can use it on your magic casters should they be, using their skills every now and then and not casting magic. So you can force them to only cast magic. But yeah, there's not much to the healing and support AI. They just do what they got to do. That's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and move on to some closing thoughts. Okay, so closing out the video, hopefully this showed a understanding of the AI that maybe you didn't have before, or maybe it just elaborated the AI in general. We don't know anything when it comes to the time trial apart from just knowing that it's going to be auto battle only, so we won't have access to to UR arc skills. So I think it's going to be a fair playing ground in the sense of, if I have Glukiel and I have Gwar, then I already have the advantage, as opposed to you not having Glukiel and Gwar, in a regular time trial. But I feel like this is gonna put everyone on a sort of a level ground. It's just who's gonna have a better understanding of the AI. But even then, it still kind of is on the same playing field, because we can't really take control of our units aside from just like giving them skills and stuff like that. So hopefully this helped out a little bit, and maybe it helped you be a little bit more inclined to do the time trial, because you have, hopefully you have a better understanding. So that was it for the video. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.